Hey guys, today we're going to be drawing trees, and these are going to be outlines that we're going to be using for our painting. So we're just going to create a pencil outline, although here I'm doing it in charcoal. So I'm using charcoal so that it shows up on the screen, but you should be using a light pencil mark. So you're going to first start off with a dividing line. That line is going to represent the trunk of a tree. And it doesn't have to be a perfect vertical flagpole. It can be a little bit twisty, a little bit turny. There are some rules, though, to doing trees. One of the rules is that the tree always is widest where it connects to the ground, so where the roots are, and then it starts to taper to a point. So I usually try and find the center of the tree first, and understand that each tree kind of has its own personality. There are so many different types of trees, but each tree is also an individual in its own way. So when I'm doing foliage, like I'm looking at that first picture on our reference, I am making one long continuous line to do the foliage, to do those branches. And I'm looking right now only at the outer edge. So I'm not lifting up my pencil at all. For me, that's what works. If you wanted to do a hatch mark, you can, but I'm trying to kind of follow along with my eye at the same time I'm drawing it. So my pencil point is following along with my eye as it looks at the edge. And I'm trying to see individual shapes in there. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's organic, but you want to see kind of the edge shapes that are in the picture reference. And on this tree, it looks like it's pretty balanced on both sides, so I'm just going to make sure that one side somewhat matches the other. It's not perfectly symmetrical, and that's what makes it really more of an organic shape. So there's some funky branches going on the left side. That's part of what makes it kind of fun. And then I'm going to start to draw a little bit of the interior, any type of branches that you see kind of poking through. You don't have to do every one, but I'm just kind of massing out those shapes. And those shapes almost look like clouds. So I'm doing this, I'm taking my time while I'm drawing it, just looking from the photograph to my drawing my paper. And I'm looking, where are those tree branches? You don't have to do every single one, you can simplify. And no shading is required. In fact, it's better if you don't put any shading at all. Just a quick light outline and a little bit of massing, and that's it. So we're going to move on to the next tree, and this tree is going to be the palm tree. And so you know there are multiple varieties of palm trees too. We have quite a few varieties in California, but you go other places like Hawaii or the Caribbean, and they have different varieties over there. So this is a California palm tree. And I'm starting out the same way that I started the other tree. So I'm trying to find the symmetrical vertical axis, that line that divides the tree trunk in half equally. And there's the tree trunk, but then there's like the thicker part of the tree trunk just before it branches off into the top part. It looks sort of like a truffula tree here. At least the top part does. That like midsection is kind of like, it almost looks shaggy, even though it's probably not. So it looks kind of like that. And then it's a little bit tricky trying to figure out how to do the palm leaves, the fronds on top. So I found a center point, and I'm drawing kind of a circle shape around that center point. So it looks like part of this got cropped off the page. You can't see the top half, but if you could, you would see a somewhat circular shape. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Mine doesn't look perfect. And from that radiating points, that point, all those fronds, all those palm leaves are going to radiate from that single point there. And there are some overlap. There are some shorter ones. There are longer ones. There are ones that are, you only see a half of it because it's kind of twisted or folded almost like a taco would be. So you have to really look at what you're seeing. And what this is it's like almost a large like ball, except for it's got all those fronds on it. So it's like this fluffy ball. And those fronds do curve slightly. They're not straight out. They are slightly curved. And some of them you can see a dividing line right down the center. And we are going to be getting some detail into the fronds when we paint, but not right now. So that's basically what it looks like just before we add the paint. Now we're going to move to the third one, and the third one is the oak tree. And I'm starting off with the trunk first. And just like with the other trunks, it's actually even more prominent on this one that it gets wider as it connects to the ground. So you will need to most likely adjust as you go. And this tree has a fork to it. And I'm kind of looking at the fork and looking at where that fork begins and checking it on the reference and then comparing that to my drawing. I'm also looking at the height of the canopy. The canopy is the part of the tree where the leaves are. And I'm looking at the height of the canopy in comparison to how much trunk I'm seeing. So there's almost like there's 3 prongs. It looks kind of like a chicken's foot right now. And then I'm going to have branches snaking off of those prongs. And you just want to follow that basic rule that they get skinnier as they move away from the main branch as they reach up towards the sky. Although not every branch does that. Some branches point down. There are curvy branches. There are branches that are undulating. There are more straight branches. So you just have to look at what you're seeing and try to replicate that. And you'll see I'm doing a lot of holding down my pencil, one long continuous line. If you prefer to hatch, you may hatch. It's just what feels comfortable for me. And remember, these are only outlines for which you're going to be painting. I'm just going to speed up the process so you can see what the branches look like as they unfold. So a tree that is in winter will look like this because it doesn't have any leaves on it. All the leaves have fallen to the ground, so it'll look as you see it right now, something like that. But we are going to be putting a canopy on this. This tree, the trunk, the way we've drawn it, could be a basis for another type of tree. Like you could turn this tree into a weeping willow just by changing how you do the foliage. So this tree works for a lot of other types of trees as well. You could do plum blossoms on there, although I would make the trunk a little skinnier. There's different things you can do once you understand the basic overall concept of the tree. So here I am broadly outlining the canopy. And I realized later I didn't go out far enough because it looks very asymmetrical right now. It's more heavy on the left side and not on the right. So I'm just pushing that line out. And I'm going to go back and push it out even farther because it looks wrong. That's okay. We're working in pencil, or you should be, so it'll be easy to erase. And I'm putting little holes. There's a hole there because that's a sky hole. A sky hole is when you can see little bits of the sky poking through between branches. And I'm just trying to get a sense of mass and where all the foliage is going to be. And then I'll fill in the leaves later.